Right, hi there everyone. I thought I would just post a live video in a way to try and encourage folk and as a little bit of a response to a little bit of a meditation and response to one of the encouragements that we were given by Andy Boulter this Sunday's evening service. And let's see if I can just get that up, that'd be great. And so when Andy delivered his sermon on Sunday, one of the things that he was really encouraging us to do was to think about James chapter 3 and verse 17. So if you're just joining us now, I'm hoping that we'll catch a few people that are on Facebook, or if you're going to watch this a little bit later, then we're looking at James chapter 3 and verse 17. And Andy referred specifically to James chapter 3 and verse 17 in his sermon, and he said that if we wanted to, we could make that a bit of a meditation this week. And so I thought it would be helpful just to do a little bit of that now, actually, and just to look at the verses that we've got here, and just have a good look at it, and to see what does it really say to us at the moment in our current situations, and how do we apply this to the Christian life. So James chapter 3 and verse 17. This is how it reads. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. And so that's the great exhortation that we get from James at the end of chapter 3 there. And I just thought it would be great to have a few thoughts as to how that can apply to us as Christians, as we seek to live out our lives before a watching world, as we seek to live lives completely consistent with the Bible. So, what can we do? Well, we live, first of all, wise lives. And it says, the wisdom from above is first pure. Now, what does that mean, that the wisdom from above is first pure? Well, I think partially of what James is trying to say here is that we're not to mix heavenly wisdom with earthly wisdom. That is, that there's no middle path, that we can hedge our bets by trying to combine the best of both worlds. But actually, heavenly wisdom is completely opposed to earthly wisdom. Well, what does earthly wisdom look like? Well, we've got a kind of description of that in the verses which just preceded. It's full of bitter jealousy and selfish ambition. It boasts and gives a false truth to people. And so the first thing that we learn from it is that heavenly wisdom is pure. It doesn't want anything to do with selfish ambition. It doesn't want anything to do with boasting and pride and arrogance. So one thing which we can say about heavenly wisdom is that Christians should be identified and characterized by humility. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Wisdom reminds us that actually we don't know everything, that we're limited in what we know and what we can do. We're even suspicious of the motivations of our own hearts. We know that we're not righteous people before God, and that we need to be humble in the way that we talk to other people, and particularly the way that we interact with other people. It also says that it's to be peaceable and gentle, heavenly wisdom. That we're not out there to kind of scold other people. We're not out there to get our own way, to crush everyone else. But for heavenly wisdom, it is to be peaceable and gentle. And so I just ask you, is that the way that we're coming across to people around us? Are we coming across as peaceable people that aren't out looking for an argument all the time, aren't out just to stick our oar in and to be controversial wherever we can? Are we known to be gentle people that aren't saying things just to get a reaction or to wind people up. Open to reason. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because we're often accused as Christians of not being open to reason, but the Bible tells us that we are to be open to reason. That is, that we're not supposed to come to everything in life and with made up minds. We are to be open to reason, open to be proved wrong on things, open for people to challenge us on certain things. And so it's helpful sometimes to ask, when someone does challenge us on something, do we instantly come up in our minds with the responses on how to combat that? Or do we actually ever ask the question, am I wrong about this? Do I need to take time to pray about this and to think about this? The wisdom from above is open to reason. It's willing to be talked to. It's willing to consider things and to weigh things up, and is always suspicious of our own self-righteousness. I know, looking at my own life, that I haven't been open to reason so many times. We have a presumption, don't we, that we're right. The scriptures say, all a man's ways seem right in his own eyes. And that's our natural presumption, that the decisions we've made on something in the past, our opinions on something, are the right ones. And it takes an awful lot to change our mind. Full of mercy and good fruits are what is also spoken of there. Full of mercy and good fruits. That maybe if we are right about something, we're not going to triumph over another person. Even when we see something wrong with someone else, we will show mercy towards that person and be full of good fruits. That's really what we want, isn't it? We want to be full of mercy and good fruits to us. And as Christians, we have a particular basis for this. It's not just that these are good things, and we need that hanging in the air as good things. The reason we believe these are good things is because God has been merciful to us. That Jesus paid the penalty that we deserve for our sins, and God hasn't treated us as we deserve and given us the punishment we deserve, but that he has shown us an amazing mercy in Jesus Christ. Full of mercy and good fruits. That's fruits of righteousness in our lives, always seeking to do good things for other people. It also says impartial and sincere. Impartial. Again, that's a bit similar to being open to reason, but this one means that, you know, we don't automatically take sides on things. We don't automatically presume that person's wrong just because they differ to us on various things, and that we're sincere about things as well. That when we express ourselves, we're being honest, we're being sincere to other people. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. That's interesting, isn't it? A harvest of righteousness is sown, so that when we make peace, we're actually helping other people, and we're sowing righteousness into their lives. When we go into other people's lives trying to make war, we're tempting them to sin. But when we go in peace, we're tempting them to righteousness, which is a good thing. And that's wonderful, that we sow in peace. And may I encourage you, brothers and sisters, to do that. But I thought it would be also very good just to think about what this means in our current situation as well, and to apply this. So that I could really think of two particular ways we could apply these truths at the moment. The first one is probably a fairly obvious one, and that is our interactions on the internet at the moment. So we're finding ourselves communicating more and more on the internet. Perhaps you've just spent the last hour or so before finding this video browsing social media or whatever, and it's what there is to do. It's the way we keep in contact with friends and family at this time. But also, it's fair to say that there's been an awful lot of very intense debate about what are very important topics. You know, is the lockdown a good thing or a bad thing? How do we weigh up what's happening to the economy with the protection of human lives and the vulnerable? Should the government be telling us to wear face masks? When should the lockdown end? Did they put things in place soon enough or not? And all these kind of political questions and things like that. The problem with the internet isn't it, though, is because we can read lots, we've all become kind of armchair epidemiologists. We all believe that because we've read a few articles on the BBC or on this website, or it's come up on our feed and we've read a few things, we genuinely believe that we've got it sorted, and it becomes evident sometimes. And I know I'm guilty of this because I've seen myself do this throughout this whole thing. We become almost frustrated with the world around us. We become frustrated with other people that don't see the same way that we do. We become frustrated with maybe the authorities, and we think, wow, it's simple to sort it all out. Did they just follow my kind of suggestions? Why is this not doing? We become frustrated with people that we see going out and maybe doing things which we don't think are advisable under the current situation, and it can cause anger. But one of the things about anger is anger can so often reveal to us our own idols, our own lack of trust in our Heavenly Father. Because one of the reasons why I think people are getting angry at the moment, and the online debates are getting quite bitter, is because we feel so very powerless at the moment. I listen to a podcast each day, and one of the podcasts that I listen to, it reviews the daily news, and it reads various newspapers and talks about it from a Christian point of view. And a few days ago, they were discussing a phrase from some of the top scientists in the country. There's a guy, particularly a statistician from Cambridge, and he was saying a lot of the science around what's going on at the moment can only be described in the terms, and it's a long word, as epistemic uncertainty. Now, what on earth does that mean? Well, I didn't have any idea what that meant, but epistemic uncertainty apparently means we don't know. So it is confusing, isn't it, when we look out there, and even the greatest minds in our country are at odds with each other on simple things, like, is it a good idea that everyone should wear face masks or not? Or is this measure a good idea or a bad idea? Or have lots of people already been infected by the disease, or have not very many people been infected by the disease? And all this kind of debate really just shows to us actually how little mankind by and large really understands what's going on in the world, how much we really grasp of the really big questions, even around something quite limited like the spread of this disease. And one of the outcomes of that is a lot of anxiety. Not knowing what's going on makes us feel, by nature, anxious. Sometimes it makes us feel frustrated. We wish that we could just solve things in simple ways. But can I encourage you, brothers and sisters, if you're listening to this, just to remember what we're taught here. In wisdom, remember humility. I'm not a scientist, and most of us aren't. And if some of the greatest minds in our country can say, actually, there's a huge amount of uncertainty around even very limited questions, then we should also be surely doubly as humble about these things. And we shouldn't be falling out with one another over things like this. And we should be, in our online discussion, showing a lot of respect to other human beings that are trying to grapple with big questions as well. A lot of patience with people that might be getting frustrated with us, or other people in the church. It's natural that there'll be people in the church, some of which will be quite concerned about what's going on, and be quite worried about that. And it's natural that there'll be other people that by and large just want to carry on with life as much as they can, as the different personality types work their way out there. We should show patience towards one another, mercy towards one another, care towards one another when we differ on these things. So that's one area. The other area, which could be really helpful to us, is to think about how that all plays out in a home environment as well. We're living with other people, a lot of us. Perhaps we're living a lot more confined than we would have kind of ideally be, and we were just a few months ago when we could get out and do what we want, or we spent time out at work or at school or wherever we got out to. We find ourselves in homes as well, and so often we can pick up the faults of other people very clearly when we live with them, don't we? And it's just nature, that, and that we notice other people's faults the closer we get to other people. The closer you get to know another human being, the more of their sin that they become aware of. So Ali and Joy, who are living with me at the moment, they're far more aware of the sin of my heart, of my tendencies and my grumpiness. I was grumpier earlier today because they know me better. They spend more time with me. And one of the experiences we often have as we grow up through life is we first believe, when we're maybe around about 12, 13, 14, a teenager sort of age, that our own families are the weird ones. Everyone else out there seems normal, don't they? The people in other families all seem normal. My family is weird and they're frustrating and they're annoying, but it's just because we know them better. What often happens then is you go to university, and the kind of young people that you get on well with in your first year, you then live with in your second and third year, and you find that actually friends that you used to get on with you can find very irritating after 2 or 3 years as well, and actually you start to notice, hopefully, that maybe the problem is me. And what we need, as James encourages us to here, wisdom that is from above. A pure wisdom, a peaceable wisdom, a gentle wisdom. And may I encourage you, brothers and sisters, if you're listening to this, to see this most clearly and most beautifully in the life of Jesus Christ himself. It could almost be a description of Jesus himself, couldn't it? That he is the one who is heavenly wisdom in its embodiment. As it came to earth, he was pure. He didn't get involved with all the kind of corrupted thinking and ways of the people of this world. He was very distinct and different. It made him stand out. No one ever spoke this way, they said of Jesus. It made him peaceable and gentle. You know, a bruised reed he hasn't come to shake. He was open to reason even with the unreasonable Pharisees, and to discuss with them and to talk with them. He was full of mercy and good fruits. Think of the many ways that he showed mercy to people, whether it's the woman caught in adultery, whether it's the people that he met, the sinners and the tax collectors who no one else would have anything to do with. He was full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness was sown by him. You see, for every single one of us believers who know that we haven't lived the way that we should, who know, probably even thinking back over this past 24 hours or this past week, that there's things that I've said to other people, or grumblings that I've made in my own mind, or the way that I've treated the people that I live with, that we've done an awful lot of wrong in this world. That we're not the righteous people we should be, and the more that people get to know me, the closer they get to know me, the more they realise that Jesus, he was such a righteous man that when he died on that cross, his righteousness could be put to my account and to your account if you're a believer. And that's wonderful good news, because that means that people like you and I can reap a righteousness not of our own, and that's wonderful. And so those are just my thoughts and a little meditation on James chapter 3 and verse 17, and I hope that's encouraged you as well, from something which Andy very helpfully pointed out to us on Sunday evening service. Please do listen or watch that if you haven't had a chance to do that already. It was a lovely sermon, really helpful. They're all on the website. You'll find them also here on the Facebook and on YouTube as well. We also do ask that you interact with as many of our posts as possible. We want to get these materials out to as many people as we can, and to still be engaging the world with the gospel, even though I can't get out there on Abington Street, even though you might not be at work and be able to contact people that way, or we can't go and contact people directly on the estate. We do want to reach as many people as possible, and the ways that you can help us with that is, first of all, you could like all the comments, all the materials we put online on Facebook. Likes help it get more shared onto other people's feeds. Better than that though, you can comment on things and actually engage and discuss some of the materials we put online. It'd be great if you could make discussions on this live stream and make comments on that, or some of the services, and just say how you found it helpful. So that's helpful. Please do that. Discuss with people, talk with people, respond to other people's comments as much as you can. But even better than that, you can share as well. You can click a button and you can share it, and that shares it with people who are friends with you. And so we would just encourage you to do that on Facebook. It's a bit different on YouTube. There's like and there's comment. You can do both of those, and that's really helpful as well in just making sure that as many people are exposed to the good news of the gospel through these things. So that's what you can do just as you're on social media as well. So we just encourage you to do that, not just with this and the other bits that Paul's getting put online, but also for the Sunday services as well. So I'm going to finish there. I hope you have a really good week. And if you've got any suggestions about how we can improve these broadcasts or any of the other broadcasts, please do comment and talk to us. We're really hoping for your guys' feedback. It's a steep learning curve for us, so please give us some sort of feedback on that. We'd be very grateful. Thank you.